We'll see how it checks out. But I'm sure you've heard about an allowance called neutrality.
What is it? Political neutrality allowance.
Yes, and we
Yes,
know that
I heard about
the Constitution bars civil and local government staff from participating in politics and in party politics. And apparently, I mean, we didn't know this until they threatened the strike action. So we now know that government has agreed to pay them what they call a neutrality allowance, and it's drawn some diverse and divergent views on the matter. Your colleague Dr. Kojo Asante of CDD thinks that, look, the neutrality allowance is illegal and unsustainable, and that the civil service must rather be fighting for fair conditions. And my big sister Naile Adefi, who speaks for the Trade Union Congress, is also calling for an extension of the neutrality allowance to all members of the public sector. What do you make of this?
I mean, that just shows you how pathetic the whole situation is, to a point where now a civil servant is presumed to be partisan and has to be incentivized to be neutral. And when we move from the Asare case to this type of allowance, it's the same type of thing. It's almost as if people, not just civil servants, but Ghanaians as a whole, should be paid some allowance to be neutral. Because if you are neutral, you are not going to be happy with this idea that we are disqualifying about 1 million people from participating in the public space. Civil servants take an oath to be neutral. That is the essence of the civil service. But because we have made that a political tool for the ruling government, because we have politicized not just the civil service, but we've politicized the army, we've politicized the police, we've politicized the media, we've politicized the schools, and so on and so forth. Very soon, if you are not careful, we have to start paying everyone some neutrality allowance just because they need to start thinking as Ghanaians rather than as partisans. It's a sad state of affairs, one that we should not countenance. I mean, the civil servants are entitled to fair pay, but to give them some allowance and title it as neutrality allowance, to me, it's almost like going to a church and paying the church members an allowance to remain religious, or going to a school and paying the students an allowance to take exams, and so on and so forth. We are at a very sad place in our country. There's too much partisanship, and there is time for us to put a break on this partisanship and start thinking as Ghanaians first and foremost before we do our politics. The days that I treasure most was when I was a student at the university, where we approached national issues as nationalists. We looked at a policy, we went on a looter because we thought the government was wrong. The government could not infiltrate into our ranks with milk and sardine and money and so on and so forth. We always thought about the country. That's what made me proud. And that's why till today, when I think about issues, it's very hard for me to allow partisan thoughts to dominate. I'm always thinking about what is good for the country. We are in a very dark place, because Randy, it's not just the civil servants, it's across the board. The judiciary, the security service, everything has been politicized. Nooks is no longer very powerful, because Nooks now has been divided into Tescon and Time, and it's hard for the Nooks to come together to even defend students' interests, let alone the national interest. So my short answer to your question is this neutrality allowance is sickening. There's no room for such a thing in our polity, but it is telling you where we are, and it is a reminder that we need to put a break on this partisanship.
Prof, thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it, and